Hello, everyone. Hi. I'm just going to give everyone a second to join us and get comfy. Welcome. Just give everyone a second. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think I'm just going to get started. And as people come in, it'll be good. So hi everyone. My name is Savannah, and I am the Book Week coordinator with Sask Books. Sask Books is a creative industry association for book publishing in Saskatchewan. And we are so honored to have Richard Van Camp here with us tonight, featuring his book Gather. It is such an honor, and I'm so excited. Richard's gonna read a little bit. He's gonna speak about the book and what a lovely book it is. And I think you will all be filled with so much joy by the end of this evening. Even just a few minutes with Richard beforehand, I feel amazing. So I hope you all feel this contagious energy. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a few things. First of all, Sask Books, our head office is located on Treaty 4 territory in Regina. But as Saskatchewan's Provincial Creative Industry Association, our work reaches lands covered by Treaties 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10, the traditional lands of the Nahiwak, the Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Dene peoples, as well as the homeland of the Métis. So I would like everyone to comment, if you can, the traditional land that you're viewing from. And if you don't know, I'm going to post a little link that will help you find out. And then you can share. I would love to hear where you're joining, where you're tuning in from. And there's like a little helpful thing there if you don't know. So yeah, we definitely just want to take that time to acknowledge the territories that we're on, where we live and work. But also acknowledgement is just one part of a larger commitment. And I would love it if everyone, if you haven't already, to think about reading the TRC's calls to action. I have a little link here. If you haven't already taken a look, please do. And try and find ways to implement that. So please take a look at those links. And yeah, I also wanted to thank our funders, the Department of Canadian Heritage, the Canada Book Fund, and Creative Saskatchewan. Without their support, Book Week would not be possible. So we're very fortunate to have their support with this. So it is such an honor to introduce Richard Van Camp. I just feel so humbled that he's joining us tonight. I'm going to read you a little bio before we get started. So Richard Van Camp is a proud Tlicho Dene from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. He is the author of 26 books in just about every genre. His novel, The Lesser Blessed, is now a feature film with First Generation Films, and you can watch it on CBC Gem and Amazon. You can visit Richard on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and at www.richardvancamp.com. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Richard.
Oh, Savannah, Masi Cho. Thanks, everybody. This is what an honor, what a privilege to be here tonight. I'm humbled. I'm grateful. Thank you for your beautiful, generous introduction, Savannah. Masi Cho to this festival, to the organizers and the funders. I'm grateful, and Masi Cho to everybody who's watching right now. I'm in Treaty 6 country in our beautiful home in Edmonton, Alberta. It has been the most beautiful day. I find every day I wake up in a ceremony of gratitude. I wake up so grateful for our health, so grateful for my family, our friends, our community, the teachers, of course, the everybody in the health, everyone who's doing everything right now to the best of their ability. I don't know where they're getting their strength from, but I think right now more than ever we need to be very supportive of everybody who is doing their best in these very overwhelming times. And I was just saying to a friend tonight that I don't think we realize how much we're carrying right now in terms of worry and anxiety and stress. And one of my friends said, everything we were promised in September, like a year ago, it's been stolen from us. And we're right back where we were. And it's even actually a little bit more dangerous now because of what's happening in our hospitals and our clinics. And I think now, and I wanted to say to him, is a time for stories, and it's a time for community, and it's a time for friends, and it's a time for feasting safely. And it's really a time to pick up the phone. And so what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to share with you as many miracle stories as I can, because I want tonight to be a celebration of life and a celebration of the great mystery, because I've been so lucky my entire life, to have been born and raised in a house filled with books and stories and laughter and love, and Degrassi Junior High and Good Rockin' Tonight with Stu Jeffrey. To be born and raised in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, I wouldn't be the person that I am today had it not been for my friends, my family, my community, my culture. So I'm going to start at the beginning. So I just turned 50. I just turned 50 years old. Just September 8th, I'm 50 years old. And looking back, I was born September 8th, 1971 in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, and I miss my little community so very much. Fort Smith, if you don't know, is on the Alberta border, the Alberta Northwest Territories border. So it's Treaty 8 country. Its population 2,500. We are officially quadrilingual. What that means is Chipewyan, Cree, French, and English are spoken at any given time. We're the Métis capital of the Northwest Territories. We are the gateway to Wood Buffalo National Park. So we have buffalo 40 miles one way, and we have bison 40 miles the other way. We have sandhill cranes, whooping cranes, pelicans. We have black bears, brown bears, and cinnamon bears. We're the third best place in the world to see the Northern Lights. We are the hickey capital of Canada. We are the nickname capital of Canada. We can two-step to anything. And we are romantic. We are strong. We are resilient. We're just a lot of fun. And I've always said Northerners are the hobbits of Canada. All we want to do is cook for you and bake for you and spoil you and gift you and treat you right and pamper you. And really, that's what I've been able to carry my whole life, is that, a friend of mine said, the longer you stay at Richard Van Camp's in his yard, the longer you stay, the heavier your arms will be when you go to your truck, because all he does is gift you and feed you. His whole family's like that. And I think that's the ultimate Northern compliment. So, the miracle story I want to share with you tonight, well, the first one is when I was growing up, I was a really good Canadian, and I can prove it. So in the 70s, I remember very clearly living on Sesame Street in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. It's called St. Anne's Street, but everybody calls it Sesame Street. I remember growing up in the Bay City Rollers had their first hit Saturday night. I remember Canada's first soap opera, The Edge of Night. The Edge of Night. I remember Knowlton Nash and the National. It was very serious when Knowlton Nash came on, and MASH. Remember the Kiss Army was growing. I remember saving up some money, some sunyao, and sending away for this iron-on patch that showed my mom had to iron on this Kiss emblem that I was part of the Kiss Army. Ace Frehley and Paul Stanley and everybody. So growing up, we had the great outdoors and best buddies, best friends, JBT Elementary, PWK High. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. And I was just saying to Savannah and our dear friend Emily that I had a dream last night about this launch, about what we were doing tonight. Last night, I had a dream that I was so excited to show up that I had my moose hide vest. This is the moose hide vest that I wore on my wedding day to the love of my life, Kiwi Martin. And I had my moose hide vest. The hair was looking good. I was wearing my slacks. They were dry cleaned. I tell you, I'd ironed my own shirt, and I was racing in this beautiful hall to give a presentation. But I'd forgotten my moccasins, and I remember I just sweating bullets in this dream that I can't perform without my moccasins. I mean, these were gifted to me by my wife and our little boy Adzazi. And I remember going, oh, well, maybe if they have a podium, no one will see I'm presenting in my socks. So the first thing I did this morning when I got up was I grabbed my moccasins. And I don't know if you've ever seen these before. You're never going to forget them. These are my Star Wars moccasins. These are, aren't these beautiful? These are Stormtrooper moccasins that my wife and my little boy commissioned to have these made. So growing up, I was happy. I was a social student. I had a lot of fun, great teachers, great everything. But when I graduated from high school, I remember everybody and their monkey had a life plan and a career goal. And a lot of them took off. My best friends took off to NAIT and SAIT, U of A, Saskatoon University, Regina, UBC, Victoria. And I realized I didn't know what I wanted to be. I had no idea what I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be a ninja. I was really into ninjas. I was really into breakdancing. I was a great pop culture junkie. You know, we grew up with Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and Savage Sword of Conan and Star Trek. You name it, we had it. We had the best of the South and the best of the North. That was really the gift of growing up. But when I graduated and I really thought about it, I thought, you know, you say that you're dog rib, you're Tlicho Dene, but what do you really know about being a Northerner? What do you know about being Dene? So I decided to take a year off. It was the smartest thing I ever did. And I decided that I was going to volunteer to drive the handy bus in our community. Handy bus weighs a couple tons, it's got a wheelchair lift, and it's a volunteer position. Your job is to pick up elders in their home or wherever they call and then drive them around. And I realized when I did this and I started meeting elders like Amelia Gatrix, Irene Sanderson, Seraphine Evans, Maria Brown, John Evans, when I realized that I was in this beautiful position of driving, volunteering, and serving our elders, I realized this was why I was born. I was born to honor. I was born to listen. I was born to record and transcribe and share stories. And really, that's what this book is about. Gather is it took me 6 years. It took us 6 years to put the book together. Gather, but really, it's a celebration of a lifetime of learning and a lifetime of starving for story and culture. So, I'll share with you the first story. So, I remember very clearly that I was driving Maria Brown to, I think it was Kaiser's, and it was quite cold out. It was wintertime. It could have been 20 below, could have been 30 below. And I remember I was driving her. She was buckled in. Everything was great. So Maria was Chipewyan. She was an incredible cook. She had been curing a lot of people in our community who had asthma. And how she cured asthma was she was using goose grease. Goose grease. And she said something very interesting. She said, the thing about Indian medicine is that it's not the medicine that is being given to you, it's who's giving you that medicine. It's who's giving you that medicine. So driving Maria Brown to Kaiser's, out of the blue, she says, Richard, did I ever tell you about the time I died? And I said, what? What? You died? And she goes, you want to know what heaven's like, Richard? Heaven is like West Edmonton Mall. And I said, what? She said, everybody's young. Everybody has black hair. She said, everybody's visiting. There's so many floors and there's bridges and everything, all the colors is the colors of the Northern Lights. And she said, what happened that day was I didn't feel like myself. And I decided to have a little nap in my sewing room. So I laid down in my little cot and I pulled my little blanket over me with my pillow. I thought, oh, I'll just have a quick nap. And then I woke up and I was in heaven. And she said, after a while, I started to recognize people that I used to know that had passed away. And then all of a sudden, there was a bridge, and my late parents were walking towards me. And my dad's hair was black, my mom's hair was black, and they were all waving. They were so happy to see me. And I started to run because I just wanted to hug my mom and my dad. I hadn't seen them in so long. And from behind them was my husband, my late husband, Jean Louis. And Jean Louis was going like this. He was a giant. And Jean Louis pushed my mom and my dad. He was like a big bear. He pushed my mom and my dad out of the way. And my dad was laughing and said, "Well, go get her then." And she said, "I started to run. The second I saw my husband, I started to run." And we used to do this thing when he would come back from hunting or fishing or trapping, where I would run as fast as I could and he'd hold his arms out and I would jump up in the air and he would catch me and carry me around like a little kitten. I was nothing to him. That's how strong he was. And so I started to run and he started going, "Hurry, hurry, hurry, babe, hurry." And as I was running, a voice came and a voice said, "Maria, you can't stay. You still have work." And I thought, "Oh no." She thought, I mean, she started running even faster. And the voice said, "Maria, you can't stay. You have to go back." And when I saw my husband getting close, she said, I leapt up in the air to go land in his arms and he was getting ready to catch me. The voice said, "Maria, you can't stay." And I woke up in my cot. I was back in Fort Smith. She said, my blood had turned to slush. I was so cold. I must have passed for a couple of hours. So Richard, it's good to miss people who have passed, but I'm here to tell you, when we lose somebody, they're home. It's all love. That's the feeling. It's all love. You're home. And I went, I felt like I'd been baptized. I felt like this was the moment I'd been waiting for, to be welcomed into something bigger than anything I'd ever known. And I said, Maria, I said, I can't thank you enough. I said, I think a lot of people need to hear this story. I said, I'm not working tomorrow. Can I come by for a visit and I'll get a little tape recorder and can you tell me that story again and I'll record it. I'll transcribe it word for word. I'll make copies for you. I'll take a picture of you and I just know that this is beautiful. Thank you. So I said I really needed to hear that. And she goes, sure. So the next day, so you know what I did? I actually, when I dropped her off at Kaiser's, I went to Radio Shack. I don't know if you remember Radio Shack. And I bought this little recorder for $21. $21 from Radio Shack. And I bought a little cassette, a little bunch of cassettes, and a couple of batteries. And then I went back to her house the next day and I recorded her. Now, Savannah, our host, luckily, has done some great work. So here's what I've been doing during the pandemic. I started taking these tapes and I started digitizing them and I put them up on SoundCloud. So rather than me read Maria Brown's account, which is in Gather, I want you to go to this link after and you can actually hear in 1991 Maria Brown in her own words talking about what heaven is like. So that was the story that sent me on my way back in 1991. Now, here's the second story. So after driving the elders around and recording them, I started recording Amelia Gatrix, Helena Mandeville, Seraphine Evans, Irene Sanderson, of course, Maria Brown. I started taking portraits. I had maybe 6 or 7, and James Beaver. I had about 6 or 7 stories that were transcribed word for word. I'd made copies for the elders. I'd taken people's portraits. I didn't realize that this was part of my reclamation, that this was really my celebration and my welcome and me welcoming my celebration of being trusted with story and being trusted with something beautiful, because I realized nobody was recording our elders. Nobody. And I realize why. We never want our elders to leave and we count on them for so much. And sometimes it takes an outsider to come into a community and say, all I want to do is record you. I will pay you. I will gift you with tobacco. I will bring you gifts. I'll cut wood for you. I'll shovel your walk. I'll drive you in the handy bus. Just let me do what I was born to do. And it's just to listen and record. So I had this little manuscript and I didn't even know what a manuscript was. All I knew was I had these beautiful stories that were filled with hope and dignity and humor and wisdom and traditional knowledge. And then I went to the Anauken International School of Writing in Penticton to study creative writing. And while I was there, I got to meet the most wonderful elder, Mr. Glenn Douglas, who's since passed. So Glenn was our elder in residence, and Glenn was in a wheelchair, and other times I would see him walking with a cane. He was an Okanagan elder. He had beautiful braids. And he was very friendly, very warm, very welcoming, because so many of us as Indigenous students, we were a long way from our communities. And so one day I said to him, I said, Glenn, I said, you know what? I'm from the Northwest Territories. I'm a long way from home. I said, I've been recording elders and I've been taking their pictures. And I made you a copy of the stories from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. I really want you to read these miracle stories that I've been collecting, and I have permission to share them. And I was wondering if during our time here, because I'm going to be here for 10 months, if you ever want to tell a story, I will record it with this little humdinger of a microcassette recorder, very James Bond. And all I'll do, I said, I'm happy to pay you. I've got tobacco for you. I can go get groceries, whatever you want. I ask nothing in return. All I want to do is I'll record you and then I'll transcribe it word for word and then I'll give it back to you. And then you can change anything because sometimes you'll tell elders a story and they'll get in touch with you and they'll say, actually, I want to add more. Or they'll say, maybe we should take that out. I'm a little bit nervous about that. And then you say, oh, no problem. It's really your story and you can call me anytime. So Glenn said, let me get this straight. You're from the Northwest Territories? And I said, yes. And I said, from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. And he goes, you want to record me? And I said, yeah. And he goes, how many tapes you got in that little thing? You got lots of tapes? I said, yeah. And I had this little bag. How many batteries you got? I said, I got lots of batteries. I'm a Virgo. He says, I'll tell you a story right now. And I said, oh, now? And he goes, yeah, I'll tell you a story right now. And I said, okay, but I don't even have, I don't have any tobacco. I want to pay you. And he goes, let's do that later. I'll tell you a story you're not going to believe. I said, sure. Glenn Douglas on, I think it was 1992. He was 65 years old. Told me the most amazing story. And so Savannah's going to put it up. It's on SoundCloud. It's been digitized. His little cassette has been digitized with full permission of his family, his wife Leslie. Glenn knew that we paid him for the story, and then he passed, and so we were able to get Leslie's permission to put Glenn's story in the book. But I want you to listen to his voice, to Mr. Glenn Douglas's voice, because he had the most beautiful baritone voice, and you deserve to hear this in his own words. But let me just give you the skinny. Glenn Douglas talked about being in the Korean War. And I didn't know that he had survived as a soldier, as one of Canada's most decorated Indigenous soldiers. I didn't know that he survived World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. I had no idea. He was very humble about his career as a soldier. And he talked about being in the Korean War as a young man and being hit with a concussion grenade. And this concussion grenade killed him. And he talked about seeing the other side. And he talked about the colors and the feeling of love, the feeling of being home. And then he talked about the voice. A voice said to him, Glenn, you can't stay. You still have work. You're going to be told many times that you will never walk again. You will walk again. Have hope, have faith. You will walk again, Glenn, but you can't stay. And he didn't want to stay. He didn't want to go back because he had a lot of guilt as a soldier. And the voice said, Glenn, you have to go back. And Glenn Douglas ended up waking up in his own body bag. Imagine waking up in your own body bag. They had a field full of soldiers who had passed and they were zipping them up and somebody was recording their information from their dog tape. And it was actually a soldier who was having a smoke who just happened to look and saw Glenn open up his eyes in his own body bag. And he said, that soldier is not dead. That soldier. Can you imagine waking up in your own body bag? So with this little recorder, we got the story. And you can hear it for yourself. As soon as we're done, go Richard Van Camp, SoundCloud, Glenn Douglas, and you'll see a beautiful picture of him that he gave me permission to use when he was a soldier. So the reason I bring that up is he hadn't read Maria Brown's story yet. He hadn't read any of the stories. So for me, as a Fort Smither, as a Tlicho Dene, who had recorded Maria Brown talking about seeing heaven and the voice, And then a year later, interviewing Glenn Douglas and then hearing about The Voice, it really gave me something. It gave me a grace, and it gave me a hunger to record even more elders and knowledge keepers and people who have experienced beautiful, almost unbelievable stories about how sometimes the universe is 10 steps ahead of the rest of us. And sometimes you think you know somebody until maybe a long car ride, or maybe after a while somebody lets you into their life and they let you know about a miracle that they were a part of. So what Gather is it's really a celebration of the great mystery. And to have recorded people like Mr. Thompson Highway. You know, a long time ago, I was a guest editor for Spirit Magazine, and they said, "Well, what do you want, people to write about? What do you want? You're the guest editor." And I said, "Well, actually, I've been recording elder stories. I've got a couple miracle stories. Let's put out a call for submissions and let's see who sends in the coolest miracle stories." Wouldn't you know, the magnificent Thompson Highway, Governor General's Award, nothing he can't do, Mr. Sweet Medicine himself, Thompson Highway, author, playwright, master pianist, world class storyteller. I mean, how many languages does he speak? Nobody knows. Anyways, Thompson Highway wrote a story. He sent it in. And it was a story, and you get to read it. It's in Gather, but I'm gonna give you the skinny. This is too good. You gotta let me share this story. You gotta let me. Okay. So Thompson Highway shares this story, and I actually needed this story at that particular moment because I just lost my dear friend, Mr. Lawrence Simon, the great Mi'kmaq author of Stones and Switches, best friend, most incredible teacher. I miss him. I think about him all the time. And then all of a sudden, Thompson Highway sends in this story that renews my faith in things. So Thompson tells the story, wrote it out for us about performing this huge everything with the piano, the grand piano, and the stage, and the symphony, and everybody's hallelujah-ing after, and the standing ovation. People are weeping. People have never wept before are weeping. It's so beautiful. And so he was so excited to see his family and friends that had been in attendance that he didn't change out of his tux. He didn't change out of his performance shoes. And for those of you who don't know, and I certainly didn't know this before I read the story, when you see somebody on stage, those shoes have no grip. They're simply for show. They're there to press the little pedals on the piano. So he was so excited to see his family and friends that he forgot he didn't have any grip. And he was making his way down this huge flight of stairs, and he fell over the side. And unfortunately, another performer had lost their life a couple weeks before from the same exact set of circumstances. So Thompson is going down the stairs, and in his excitement, he leans against the rail and he flips and is heading head first down many flights. And he actually thought, this is it. This is it. And he remembered the same thing had happened to another performer weeks before who had lost his life. And he ended up saying, this is it. And as he was about to hit the ground, head first and neck first, he was actually caught by four angels. And one of them was his late brother. And they let him down gently. And that story, when I was the guest editor at Spirit Magazine 20 years ago, I have held on to that story time and time and time again. When the chips were down for me, or when I've lost a loved one, or when you can't understand how somebody has walked away from a crash, I think about that story, and I just really wanted to raise my hands with utmost respect to Maria Brown, to Glenn Douglas, to Thompson Highway, and I think about the beautiful miracles that are around all of us all the time. And if we listen, and if we spend enough time with people, sooner or later they let you know. I think we've all been a part of some pretty amazing events that sometimes are unexplainable. You can't explain it. So what Gather is to me is it's not only a celebration of the greatest miracle stories I've ever had the privilege, and I've interviewed about maybe 40 or 50 elders and knowledge keepers in my life. These are the creme de la creme, and we have permission to share them. And I'm so in awe of the elders. It's also a handbook on how to go about recording elders and knowledge keepers. And I think that that's really important because many of us want to interview elders and knowledge keepers, and many of us don't know how. Many of us want to host elders and knowledge keepers, maybe in a school or a college or a university, and we don't know the protocol. I just wanted to have something that was really safe. You know, a long time ago, I was invited to perform in Bali, and Kiwi and I went there. We had the most wonderful time, courtesy of Janet Denif and her festival. And I remember everybody in Bali was walking around with a little book called Eat, Pray, Love. And I remember thinking, I wonder what that's like to have this one little book that people can turn to that will just fill you with a soul wish. That can fill you with hope. And I really do feel of all my books, I think this is the one that's going to speak to everybody. And I'm in awe, and I'm grateful. So I got to share another story with you. Okay, so I'm from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, and okay, you have time, right? I still have time. Savannah, how much time do I have? Tell me.
You've got all the time. You've got at least half an well, you've got maybe like 25 minutes or
Okay,
20, but really whatever however long you want to be. Yeah.
okay. I'm a Virgo. I get nervous. So being from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, people say, "How did you become a storyteller? Like, what was the moment?" Because it's one thing to become a listener, but it's another thing to become a storyteller. And so I really want to honor some beautiful elders. So when we were in Fort Smith, it must have been about 1977. I think I was about 6 years old, maybe seven. We had a cinnamon bear that was coming into our community, and there was this old bush cook named David King. He was Chipewyan. And I was getting a little upset because everybody and their monkey in Fort Smith kept seeing this one cinnamon bear that was coming into around the Caribou Trailer Court. And I remember I'd hop on my little BMX bike and I would pedal as quickly as I could because I wanted to see what a real cinnamon bear looks like. And so for those of you who don't know, a cinnamon bear is cousin to the brown bear, and they are the color of cinnamon. And I've never seen one in my whole life. And I think it's okay. It's kind of like a unicorn. It's just sometimes enough to know that they're out there. So I remember coming home one day and then throwing down my bike and stomping into the house. And David King was there. And my dad, Jack, used to hire David all the time to cook for Sioux Lake for the Renewable Resources Technology Program. And so David, whenever he would come by, this beautiful Chipewyan bush cook, he would kick my parents out of the kitchen. He'd root through our cupboards and our fridge, and he'd kick everybody out except my little brother Raj. And he loved my little brother, but he could never remember Roger's name. He kept calling him Rodney. He'd say, "Where's Rodney? Where's my little Rodney?" And he'd take my brother and put him up on the counter and he'd say, "Rodney, how do you want your bannock?" And Rodney would say, "Well, today how about no raisins? How about chocolate chips? Anything you want, Rodney." You'd never seen anything. My little brother charmed this beautiful bush cook David King. Anyways, I came home one day in a huff because I hadn't seen this cinnamon bear, and David was cooking away, and he put bear grease in everything. It was in his pie crust. It was in his bannock. I'm sure it was in his shepherd's pie. He could cook for 20 or 200 at the drop of a hat. That's how amazing he was. And I came and I was like, and David is looking at me as he's cooking for Rodney first and then the rest of us. And he says, "What's wrong, nephew? What's wrong with you? How come you're like that?" And I said, "Oh, just I went, pedaling out to the Caribou Trailer Court, uncle, and I really want to see this cinnamon bear that keeps coming into our community." He said, "Cinnamon bear?" And I said, "Yes, I want to see the cinnamon bear, and everybody gets to see it except me." And he said, "Nephew, you have to be very careful with you have to be very careful around bears." And it was the way he said it that I knew he wasn't talking about what we normally talk about when we go out for picnics or into the park or go camping. I knew there was something different. I said, "Oh," and he says, "Nephew, every animal is born with medicine power. Every person is born with medicine power. A bear always knows what you're thinking. You have to be very careful with your thoughts around bears." And I'm here to tell you, when David King shared that with me, he gave me my wings as a listener, because I realized then that there was a whole other world out there that would never be in any textbook, in any classroom, in any movie, in any TV series, that what I craved the most as a human being, as a Fort Smither, as a child of the 70s and 80s, as a Tlicho Dene, what I craved was what the elders knew. And I realized that if I was going to keep feeling this touched by something so beautiful as a bear always knows what you're thinking, that really where I would find it would be around the supper tables, around the campfires. And I always give thanks to David King, because from David King, I got to meet Lorne Machia, who's Dene Ta from Assumption, Alberta. And we were sharing stories. We were on a little bit of a tour in British Columbia, and I shared that. I said, this old bush cook told me something so beautiful a long time ago. Mr. David King, Chipewyan elder and chef to the stars, big beautiful bush cook. He told me that a bear always knows what you're thinking. And he said, "Oh, yes," he said, "I'm so glad that people are still sharing these teachings, because," he says, "my grandfather was the last man alive who knew how to grab all the three shadows of an eagle. Every eagle has three shadows. That's how powerful they are. And he was the last man alive who knew how to grab all three shadows of an eagle for the purpose of ceremony." Oh, it was so beautiful. And then years later, we met Bradley Hunt, my dear friend Katrina Chappell in Victoria. She's a nurse, she's a healer, she practices acupuncture. She was given a beautiful West Coast silver bracelet, and she went and met Mr. Bradley Hunt, who is Heisjauch from Weglisla. And she said, I really want to treat myself for all the good work that we're doing at this healing house for people with addictions. We're using acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, and I'm a nurse at Victoria General, but we're doing a lot of good work with people who are in recovery. And I was given this beautiful West Coast silver bracelet, but I would love to hire you to put something in there, something that I can look at when I'm feeling a little down, and it'll remind me of the work that we're trying to do. And so Bradley said, "Well, let's go for a walk up and down the beach, and you tell me about what you're doing, and then it'll come to me." And so we had a big feast, and we were just spoiled rotten. Bradley's family really spoiled us. And by the time he and Katrina came back, Bradley Hunt said, "I know exactly what I'm going to do. Give me about a month, and I'll carve what I've seen in your bracelet." And so Katrina was so excited. And so we had this feast, had some coffee. We started sharing stories, and I shared what David King said. A bear always knows what you're thinking. And my friend Lorne Machia said, "Every eagle has three shadows." And my other friend, Morningstar Mercury told me that frogs are the keepers of rain. To the Chipewyan, frogs are the keepers of rain. Every time it rains, the frog people have called that rain. That's their gift. And if you have frog song in your community, your water is safe to drink. If the frogs ever leave your community, if the frog people ever leave your community, your water is no longer safe. Where there's frogs, there's clean water. And so we were just sharing these beautiful stories, and really it was just the most beautiful night. And it was a couple weeks later, Bradley called me and said, "Bring your friend Katrina back. I'm done her bracelet. You're not even going to believe it." I said, "Oh, I've always loved your work, Bradley. Let's go." So I get Katrina. We drive back out there again. Big feast, big celebration, and then Bradley goes out and comes back with the most beautiful little cedar box. And he gives it to Katrina, and she opens it up and just, oh, and here it was dancing butterflies. He carved dancing butterflies in this beautiful silver bracelet. And she was like, oh my God, Bradley, I've never seen butterflies so beautiful. How did you do this? Why butterflies? You could have carved anything. Why butterflies? And he says, because butterflies are guardians for lost souls. Butterflies are guardians for lost souls. He says, that's what you're doing with your recovery work. That's what you're doing with helping everybody who's really doing their best to come out of their trauma. And it was so beautiful. And so I really wanted to share that with you tonight, that you know every animal, it really is true what David King said, every animal has medicine power, every person has medicine power. And he said that the key to this life, nephew, is you have to figure out what your medicine power is and develop it and share it with the world. The world needs your light, the world needs your grace, the world needs your sweet medicine. And I really wanted to share that with you tonight. And I love sharing stories, I love listening to stories. My message in Gather is don't wait. Don't wait to record your elders. Don't wait to record your family. Don't wait to record anyone that you really admire. Obviously get their permission first. And so I'm going to double dog rib dare each and every one of you. I want you to go out and I want you to record 10 people. I want you to record 10 people. And let's think about the medicine we need during this pandemic. I think about gardening, beading, canning, sewing, cooking. If there's something you need in your life, don't wait. Go out there and gather it in a beautiful, gentle way, because you're only stronger when you go to someone you really admire and learn from them what you've always wanted. Goodness knows we have time, right? We were all saying 19 months ago, if only I had time to get on ancestry.com and start recording, if only I had time to digitize the hundreds of photos that our family has collected, and they're in an old shoebox in a trunk in the basement. If only I had time to go get that recipe on how to make moose nose soup. If only I had time to pick up the phone and call my auntie and record. Every cell phone has a super HDR camera, a super HDR video recorder. And a lot of elders are not comfortable being filmed. That's something I learned since 1991. But that's where on your cell phone, there are those beautiful audio, there's an audio recorder. I find a lot of times when you ask an elder for permission, they'll say, I don't want to be taped, but you can record me. Because once you have that, you can email it. And so, to give you an idea of how profound a recording is, I recorded an elder in Fort Smith in 1991 when I was driving her around. She told me the most beautiful stories. And so I recorded her. And I don't want to mention any names. I want to respect people's privacy. But 20 years later, when I digitized the tape from this little guy, best 21 bucks I ever spent, I tell you. It was Christmas time. And I emailed everybody I could think of. On Facebook, I got in touch with everybody who had the same family name. And I ended up getting their emails, and I ended up emailing these MP4 formatted audio files of this beautiful elder who is no longer with us, telling the most beautiful stories. And it was Christmas time, and that family was having a huge Christmas feast. So they had 40 people at the house. And it was actually the niece who said to her uncle, she said, Uncle, Richard Van Camp, remember a long time ago in 1991 when he was driving the handy bus? And this gentleman says, yes. Remember when he drove your mom? And he goes, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he used to drive my mom around. Well, Uncle, I don't know if you know this, but he recorded your mom in 1991. And it's Christmas. I don't want to trigger you. I don't want to hurt your feelings. It's just that he emailed everybody this story. It's about maybe 37 minutes. how'd you like to hear your mom? And you can say no. And of course, this gentleman says, well, of course I want to hear my mom. It's Christmas time. And now his mother had passed probably 10 years. So they locked the door, they unplugged the landline. He was just given a Dux Unlimited cordless speaker, and they got the Bluetooth going. Everybody turned off their phones, and she said, "Okay, are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah, I want to hear my mom. Don't you guys want to hear mom?" And his siblings were there, and they said, "Yeah, it's Christmas. I want to hear mom." They hit play, and she started speaking. It filled the house, and they said that was the only time they ever saw him cry. He hadn't heard his mother's voice in over 10 years. So that's why, my friends, I'm saying the next time you're in the presence of someone you really care about, or if you really need that one story, that you really want to hear that one story again, don't wait, record it. And so we're going to prove it. So Savannah and I have something very special for you. So I had heard for years that my late grandmother, Melanie Washi, had stood up one night at a talent show in Betchoko, Northwest Territories, and she had sung a traditional Dene love song. And I wanted to surprise my mom. So I called CBC, CKLB, CJCD, you name it. I haunted them. I called them. I stalked them. I said, come on. Every time somebody says, did you ever get to hear that audio of your late grandmother singing that? Oh, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I would get a fire and I'd start going again with the emails and the phone calls. And they would all say, Richard, we've done everything. We there's three ways to spell Washi, your family name. We've tried everything. Your grandma's Indian name was Mani, right? We tried nobody got it down. And I'd be like, oh, there's gotta be somebody in the world who recorded her. And she had passed. Melanie had passed. And I kind of put that away for a little while, and I thought every 10 months it'd surface like, wouldn't that be great if for Christmas instead of, because I always say it, we don't need more stuff. We really don't. We need more stories. We need more feasts. We need more songs, more names, more chants, more prayers. That's really what we need for our spirits, our hearts, and our souls. That's our inheritance. It isn't stuff. It's the communion of family and your inheritance. There's that word again. So as this goes on, there's this one elder, Frankie Black, who lives just down the street here in Edmonton, Treaty 6 country. Every time I see him go by, I go, there's an elder from the Northwest Territories. I go, Frankie. I said, I got moose meat, I got buffalo, I got pickerel. People are always giving us stuff. And he's like, oh, nephew, yes, yeah, yes, I could take some more buffalo. You got any more of that pickerel? Yes, I do. So I always get books from the Northwest Territories. I just decided I'm going to spoil you. We're a long way from home. I'm just going to keep spoiling you. You can get mad all you want. I'm just going to keep giving you good food and beautiful books. And that's just who we are from Hobbit to Hobbit. That's what we're going to do. So I think he kind of felt bad after a couple of months. Like he was probably thinking, gee, that Richard Van Camp, he's always giving us good food. He's always giving us books from the Northwest Territories. I'm going to do something nice for him. So one night there was a knock on the door in our house. It was Frankie Black. And he handed me a stack of DVDs. He said, here you go. He goes, there's tea dances and drum dances, and there's probably your family's probably in there. The Washies are probably in there. And I said, oh, thank you. So it took me a little while, but I started going through the drum dances and the Canada Day events and tea dances and stuff like that. And it was okay. I just didn't really know anybody in any of those DVDs. And all of a sudden, one night I woke up and I thought, I bet you my grandma is on one of those DVDs. I bet you I had a feeling. And so I called him because I wasn't going to watch them all over again. I mean, come on, that's 18 hours, right? I don't have much of an attention span in case you have noticed. So I call him up and I go, Frankie. He goes, yes. I said, it's Richard Van Camp. He goes, hello, Richard. I said, Frankie, did you ever, in all the times we spoke, I never asked you something that I just, did you ever hear of my grandmother, my Etsi, Melanie Washi, singing a love song, a Tlicho love song, a Dene love song it was a talent show in Betchico? He goes, well, it's on DVD number 6. I freaking gave you that DVD. It's your grandma. And I said, you gave it to me on DVD 6? He goes, yeah. I said, so I'm not kidding. On this computer, I said, I gotta go. I hung up. I watched. It was 3 hours. It wasn't on there. I went back. I went forward. It wasn't on there, right? And so I waited because it was quite late. Next day, I call him. I said, Frankie, I went through DVD 6. It's not even on there. And he goes, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. He goes, I hung up. I just, it's, I have it. I have it. Do you want to hear her sing it? I said, no. I said, I want you to give me the DVD. And he goes, okay, I'll come by at 6. I said, okay, I got buffalo meat. Frankie, get in the yard 6 o'clock because I had to work. So all day, do you understand what this means? Like, I'd been looking for this for years. So he shows up at 6 o'clock. I basically threw, I think it was like frozen hamburger, buffalo hamburger at him. I said, good to see you, bud. Grabbed the DVD, came upstairs, put it on. It wasn't just audio. It's a video of my grandmother, my late grandmother, Melanie Washi, singing a Tlicho Dene love song. She cracks jokes before. I don't know what she's saying. It's hilarious. And she sings a song so beautiful. I had tears streaming down. And I called him after. I said, Frankie, you have no idea. I called John Gahn, who recorded it, and he gave me his permission. I said, I'm going to upload this. I'm going to give it to my mom for Christmas. You have no idea what this, and I'm going to give it to my brothers. We're going to give it to my uncles. We're going to give it to our nieces and nephews. And he goes, Richard, your grandmother was my grandmother's sister. I didn't tell you that. I'm like, well, you didn't tell me that. He goes, well, I don't know what to tell you, but we're related. Anyways, so what we have in closing is something you can watch this on your own. You can listen to, Maria Brown talking about heaven. You can listen to Mr. Glenn Douglas talking about heaven. That was in 1992. Mario was in 1991. It's interesting because the footage that you get to see with Melanie Washi singing her love song is from 1993 at a talent show in Betchico. And when you have something so precious, we have this for life. I finally understood what it was like for the elder that I got to play his late mother's song before Christmas. I'd never had anything like that happen. I love doing that for others, but for me to see my late grandmother singing that song, and even better, I've actually hired Rosa Mantla to spell out the song and talk about what the song means, because I want to learn that song and I want to sing that song. That's the gift, is that we'll have it forever. So my message to you, my friends, is that medicine you need, don't wait. Gather it now, because it's waiting. There's a lot of lonely elders out there just waiting for somebody with a good heart to show up. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of knowledge that are quite worried that the world is going to forget what they know when they pass on, they cross over. So everybody watching right now, I double dog rib dare each of you, go out and record 10 people that you really care about. I think we're going to be in this pandemic for a lot longer than we originally thought. And we're going to get through this one day at a time. All storms pass. So use this time on your own terms and make a list. Here are the 10 stories I've wanted, or here are the 10 recipes I wanted, or here is the technique of cooking or baking or jarring or canning, or harvesting, whatever it is that you need. Make this your project. Make this an incredible winter where you come out of it saying, I used that storm for the medicine I needed for my family, for myself, and for future generations. Don't wait. That's my message. Masi Cho, thank you for listening. I'm really grateful to have been here. I'm so excited for you to get on SoundCloud and listen to Maria Brown, Glenn Douglas. I'm on there a couple times. You can actually listen to Anna Tenasket, who's also in Gather. Anna is Okanagan. She shared a story with me in 1992 as well about having her life saved by the little people. And it was Anna Tenasket's birthday. And Anna, if you're watching, happy birthday to you. Thank you for allowing me to record your miracle story of having your life saved by the little people. And thank you for giving me permission to take, again, that little tape and record it to SoundCloud. So if you want to hear in her own words on SoundCloud, Anna Tenasket is on there as well, sharing the most riveting, quietly terrifying story of how the little people saved her from what could have been one of the most terrifying nights of her life. So, anyways, Masi Cho, thank you, everybody. Savannah, do you have any questions before we go our separate ways?
I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, sharing the stories, sharing about the people that you listen to. It is such an honor to have you here tonight and for us all to be in this space with you. Everyone, please buy this book, and more important, and also importantly, I think the message that Richard has said, like, really take this time and listen more deeply and make those connections and yeah, connect with those people and try and save those stories. Thank you for that message. I think that's, as we're in this fourth wave, as we're, you know, this far deep into it, what a great message to kind of move forward. Thank you so much. I'm going to put a link in here also for the U of R Press where you can buy the book. So please buy from independent publishers, independent bookstores, from the authors themselves, from Richard himself, if you're selling them, but from independent folks as much as possible. Thank you again, Richard. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
My pleasure. My
Thank
pleasure.
you, everyone. Please
pardon?
No, I was just going to say
no.
thank you, everyone, for coming as well and listening.
My pleasure. And I also just want to say a huge Masi Cho to the University of Regina Press for publishing this and for all the storytellers that gave us permission to really celebrate their miracles. And I'll end with this. You know, I always say the universe has scattered us all over this beautiful planet, and it's stories that bring us all back together. It's stories that remind us what it means to be human together. So bless you all, and just keep taking good care of yourselves. And remember, we need you healthy and we need you strong. Just like in the words of the great David King, the world needs your sweet medicine now more than ever. So Masi Cho, get on out there and gather what you need. Masi Cho. Thank you for having me, Savannah. Thank you, Emily, in the background. Thank you to this beautiful festival. And we'll see you when it's safe to do so. Masi Cho. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.